Okay, so I believe that religion and so-called science has destroyed our lives. Okay, because what I sort of realized is that, or what some of us are realizing is that we are sort of hedon bots, right? We're hedonists. This is a very hedonistic world, and it's also a very, but then it's also like we've become these robots, and it's these theocrats, these religious cultists, and these technocrats, right? These science cultists, these tech cultists, right? Which are the main sort of sources of us becoming these hedon bots. Okay, because religion is sort of the source of the hedonism. Okay, where religion is almost like this, it's a free pass, right? That sort of thing where it's just like this sea of justifications in that sense. Like, yeah, this world is made for you, and the animals are for you, which is like kind of used to justify how we treat the planet, creatures, plants. How we're basically you know this sort of devil's playground is sort of fueled by creatures and plants and exploiting each other. Like, what I'm saying? But there's this sort of moral free pass that originates from religion, right? Religion is sort of like this. It's not just that, that's like an aspect of it, but it's like religions, churches are just like almost like morality washing machines, right? Um, these religions tell us that we're special and we deserve all of these things. And it's just like this, that instant revolution, that instant forgiveness. People just act completely immoral and then they go to church on Sunday, and it's like a halo washing machine, right? These angels go around committing all sorts of atrocities and immorality. And then you just go to church and you put your halo in the washing machine, and then you come out with a gleaming new halo. That's what religion has become. And I do think there was I do think there was this sort of divine purpose or plan with religion, but it was sort of like, I don't know, college, more spiritual college, and we were supposed to graduate some time ago, but we, instead of sort of you know coming down from religion, people just sort of got caught in a matrix. In a sense, there was too many benefits, like monetary power, influence, benefits, right? Plus there's the perk of the like morality washing machine, right? um and then it's become so lazy and spoiled. You don't even have to really go to church. You just like invoke Jesus or Allah, or say shalom, and you're good, right? In the same way, these Zionists, their personal religion was justification to, you know, take over that area, that region. Okay, well, yesterday, God sent an angel to me and told me that, you know, Canada is my homeland. So get out of the way or else. Like, it makes no sense, right? How can you self authorize yourself as this sort of, how can you self deify yourself, right? Everyone's walking around thinking that they're deities, but we self deified ourselves. It makes no sense. But and then you can tell there's so many holes, because it's like there's so many dominations and sects and different religions, but then there's alliances between them. That makes no sense. People, no one takes their religion seriously. It's not about discipline or morality or growth. It's just all the benefits of it. Like that's a wasn't that a great benefit? Divine, you know, this is my land. Wow, that's quite a benefit. It's like, and that's what religions do. They just we are. I mean, that's kind of it's been that corrupt for a while, right? Think of all the things that religion was used to justify things. When the U.S. goes into these wars, they invoke, right? The presidents come out with a speech before every war, and they always end it with like in God's name or God bless. So you invoke Igewa, like, and you get mad when people yell Allah Akbar, but then it's the same thing from them too. Like we, it, religion is it's almost like overcompensation, like how those preachers get caught. You know, those preachers that get called out gay people, gay identified people, and then they always seem to be doing being erotic with other men. It's kind of like that. Like this religion is just this virtue signaling cloak, I guess. That's its function, that's its purpose, right? It's an invisibility cloak. And then so people can participate in sort of senseless, limitless hedonism. Right? It's a free pass. It's a hedonist free pass. Like, look how we're treating creatures. Like we can get our nutritional needs probably just from plants, but even if we eat, so say people don't want to do that, it's still possible. We can just eat fish and poultry. Like eating like mammals, red meat is just being decadent. Like it would be like it's nutrition, it's this. Okay, you know, you just that would be adding like an extra chicken leg. Instead of eating two, you would eat three. But we have these animal cruelty laws. Is there like it's just for, you know, it's just for there's nothing wrong with eating dogs. The problem here is it's your property. If you take your TV into your backyard and your neighbors are watching and you're breaking it with beating it with a hammer, you're not going to go to jail. But if you take your dog, it's my property, right? And beat it with a bat, a hammer, you're going to go to jail. But I thought it was my property. Like we have animal cruelty laws while we torture cows and pigs and sheep and that type of thing. But if you dig, you don't even have to dig. There's just this sort of, you know, everyone's this sacred savior deity, and it was justified that this is ours and this is for us, even though it's so mixed signals and contradictory and nonsensical. It's just so blatant. It's just so obvious. You know what I'm saying? That's what it has become. It's like trying to stay in college forever, which would create this sort of arrested development and dysfunction and that type of thing. Like you would only to try to lock people into college forever and justify it as a need and it's normal. There has to be some sort of a sinister motive, but then the people are sort of, it's not like people are being exploited as victims. It's willing exploitation, right? Because I guess what you don't have to go into the real world if you stay in college forever, right? You're just being spoon fed information and money and that type of thing, loans and that type of thing. It's, coddled. It's self infantilization. And then, right, babies would be, they don't have this sense of limits and boundaries. So we're just religion is just generating these senseless hedonist addicts in a sense, right? And then the other flip side of that is these science cultists, these technocrats, right? Because right now we're just, most of us are just hedon bots, right? We just act hedonistic in its robotic way. And these technocrats have turned us into robots, right? Because it seems like technocrats believe that technology will sort of, you know, save humanity. But I mean, both sides want you, the goal is to control us, is control. It's like this primeval, primordial, instinctual drive to control because we're so, I don't know, traumatized, insecure, whatever you want to say. But religion's approach seems to be like they use like sweet promises or like charm and charisma and glamour to sort of control people, right? Right. Churches have become, some churches are like concerts where it's like this siren song of sweet promises, like yes, you can live forever, and this type of thing. While technocrats use more technology to control us, right? They, this news and stuff is like both use fear to control us, but this like sweetened fear. So then you have like movies and TV shows, it's technology, even computers, right? And you have the same entertainment aspect, but all this other sort of, the benefits of like TikTok and Twitter, and it's like that sense of false connection and community and all that stuff. But they also use fear, right? Religion is like, yeah, you're gonna, don't do this, you're gonna go to hell, right? Which we kind of use like, oh no, we have to do it. No, we don't. They use like news, like bombarding us with like, oh yeah, climate change, right? Sort of making themselves this, manufacturing themselves as this need. So like, you better keep us on the payroll, right? There's gonna be a superstorm and a super earthquake and this, that, and that. It's always this, and a super solar flare. Why are there 25 potential disasters always around the corner from coming from technocrats? It's the same thing as you're going to hell. Like, so we have to rely on the church and the preachers and the priests, and we have to rely on these researchers and science and that type of thing. But no, they also use like news, like, right? They're bombarding us with like death and horror and turmoil. Um, right? Fear keeps us in this sort of state of control, right? And then they use like, surveillance. We're constantly being surveillance with all this various technology, um, and that type of thing, right? Which comes, you know, this, how law enforcement and the military and the defense departments have sort of been, you know, almost this RoboCop technological, this technological infusion there, but it's not really to protect us. It's just, they have these RoboCop guards. These, right, since there's this concentration of more delicate types with the technocrats, right? They can play innocent because these other people are doing their dirty work and the heavy lifting type of thing. But you know, they use the same sort of tactics. They just use technology to control us, but they also woo us in technology in the same way, right? It's presented as this, and the same, like, it's the same thing. Like the singularity and colonizing Mars is the same thing as heaven, right? Just these different set of promises. Like technocrats and theocrats are one side of the same coin. They use all the same tactics, they have all the same goals, just different approaches. And then there's alliances there too. Uneasy alliances, and sometimes there's like power struggles, but it's the same thing. But back to them destroying us, right? So more the robotization of us, right? That's one aspect of it, but then you can see like schools are a big aspect of that. Schools are not really about learning anything that might be tritary, like, and then that's just a lot of nonsense and indoctrination and that type of thing. But it's about sort of creating these compliant, obedient drones, right? It's about being obedient, being 16 and asking another random person if they can go to the bathroom. What? Um, jumping through hoop. It's about jumping through hoops on command, right? Or you produce these remote control drones, right? It's like a college degree is like a serial number you put on a robot. It's like, oh yeah, you're remote controllable, right? You'll jump through hoops in corporate and that type of thing. And it makes us more sort of prone and pliable for this sort of, you know, these broadcasts that technocrats do, like, um, you know, how they weaponize the news and propaganda, where they're saying, yeah, and we just, I don't know, they turned us into these remote control drones that's very receptive. Like, here's your download, and then you do it, right? Like how everyone's parroting climate change when it's just a natural thing that happens. Like climate change is technocrats is what is that thing like Armageddon? Like how they say Jesus is coming back and there's going to be an apocalypse around the corner. That's climate change for technocrats, for science cultists. It's really hard to sort of argue against, you know, like how long have they been saying about climate change? How long have you been saying Jesus is coming back? It's just manipulative. It's just bullying. It's just gaslighting. It's just this lazy way to make them this like sort of forced relevancy. These self-authorized gatekeepers of life, reality, morality type of thing. But you see this thing where like all of our behavior is being directed. Like technocrats have this sort of like we're all like addicts, like in this sort of casino gambling way, right? Where we all want, like we're stuck in this sort of, I know that's what it sort of fuses this heat bot cycle, right? From that instant gratification from like grades in school, grading A's, but then also that's where that sort of validation addiction comes in. We constantly want to be graded and we're insecure when we're not. So we're kind of always seeking these sort of glorification, this sort of easy instant validation, which we get from like church preachers telling us that we're all good when we're not. But, movies, TV shows that just tell us that we're incredible, right? All these TV shows that have become just sort of chosen one simulators that tell these specific demographics and identity cults that they're great and incredible and this, that, and the fourth, even if it's contradictory, right? One of the most popular shows is Breaking Bad. And this is the same demographic that's always whining about bad images and drug dealers and thugs. But suddenly when it's their demographic, it's suddenly cool, right? But they get that, you know, that badass street cat validation type of thing. Like, or, video games and social media really took it to the next level, right? likes, um, you know, views, and how they're changing Twitter. Like it's always this how they made things scroll. It's like when it's not even real. Like it'll show like on Reddit, it will be like an upvote, and it's showing the upvote. That's like casino mechanics. They're just trying to manipulate us. Or how they added these things on Twitter where it's like you can just see these constant stats, points, right? Constantly being graded and ranked in points. It's like this crack, like this insta validation, but it's so hollow and empty and substanceless and quick and fast. But it's just about, you know, where you're subconsciously seeking all of these things out. You're constantly just in this cycle, but in this very subconscious, unconscious, robotic sort of way. We're not in control of our own lives because of technocrats and theocrats, these religious cultists and these science cultists, right? Whereas even reaching these levels, like religion just has, it's like people, it's not even hidden anymore. You don't act religious, like even the spooky stuff where you're like thoughts and prayers, but you don't pray at all. You just say thoughts and prayers, but you don't pray, and you're not going to pray later. It's like completely superficial rapping. Most religious people, you're not religious. You don't do anything religious. And then science, there was this movie, they were like, the science that's all around us, that doesn't make sense. Science has jumped the rails. It doesn't mean anything anymore. Like the science that's all around us, do you mean nature? You cannot. They're they merge. Science is now they're presenting science as a synonym for nature now. And now it's like, how like religious cultists are like God's creation, like they try to monopolize everything. Like God took his time on that one. Like that's what science cultists are doing now. They're like merge the meaning of science with nature. So now you're taking accountability and credit for nature. So-called science is just basic human intelligence. The only difference is that we started documenting what you call science. There's not Science doesn't mean anything. Isn't that the scientific method? Like it's a synonym for knowledge in nature now. No, it's just basic human intelligence, and we just started document it. We naturally do the scientific method. The only thing difference is we started recording and documenting it. Like but like it makes no sense. It's like this weird hyper monopolization, but of like everything, but just to in this sort of glory vampire way. Like where if everything is sort of science coded and religious coded, then everything goes back to that, and it's just like this sinister like tentacle roots type of thing. I know it's insane, but that's what technocrats have turned us into robots, right? When you are like, we're in this like weird sort of rejection reward cycle or something where it's like you can watch a TV show and it's because it's this chosen one stimulator. When they win in the show, you feel like you win, so you have to reward yourself. So then you go out and eat as a celebration, and then or you go shop as a celebration, but then you need to recharge like your validation, and we're just caught in this loop, but it's all by design. You know what I'm saying? It's all by design where we're just robots, but then we're also hedonists. We've all just become these hedon bots. where where you're seeing these peaks. Like someone made a TikTok, it was a joke, but it was still like they were like, I I don't want my DoorDash to like I can I pay extra to have my DoorDasher bring it into to me in bed? Like, yeah, funny, but also like that's why what we're becoming, like these, where we almost like it's like this everything's like we can't handle this technology or something. Where it's like we need, how people get like it seems like people are so impatient because we've become like these summoners. Like you can just summon food. But there's this disconnection to how this is possible and what's happening. It's like, yeah, you just summoned some barbecue ribs, but that came from a that's using, it's polluting the atmosphere with the gas, and we just tortured mammals to get it. But we could just summon um food. We have Amazon, whatever, Insta thing. It's like we have. It just feels like as if we are. What am I trying to say? Like the technology is more advanced than us in a sense. Like we're not ready for this. Like we're still. I'm sorry, but we still have sort of primate vibes. Like you could even see it like when the most deadliest not school shooting, but the most deadliest mass shooting in history. Like we can just kill tons of people in seconds. Like this is just, and then there's people. These technocrats are still pushing that, where it's like, okay, we're already destroying ourselves, but we are seems like we really, really want to destroy ourselves, right? Where the religious cultists, the theocrats, are like, just giving free license to be immoral, and then technocrats is like this whole. Even though after nuclear disaster, they still want to build nuclear power when we should just stop this overconsumption. If we green power, solar power, hydropower, etc., would be enough if we just stop, having gender reveal parties type of things. This copious, pointless, vapid, hyper overconsumption type of thing. Going to take vacations to places that are, these watered down versions of those cultures. You didn't go anywhere. You didn't do anything really. Like none of this makes sense. But then you see how it's so technological, but also like hedonistic, and it's like we are this. I know it's just giving us this parasitic cancer vibes on planet, but glamorized, glorified, hyperfied. Um, like we're doubling down on it in a sense. But it's the scariest part is just like we're losing the plot. We're losing control of our own devices. It's runaway at this point. Um, like the technocrats can't stop. They just have to create CERN and more things and smash, atoms and molecules together for what? Why? And then the religious people can't stop constantly screeching about saying, why are you saying God every other sentence as if you are like spiritual vampires when it's like you have a bounty on your plate and you're still not satiated or satisfied. um Even to ridiculous stuff where you want to start wars with other religions, which is basically impossible. Like we just have become these validation vampires, these glory vampires, these bliss vampires, right? Technocrats have created this matrix like thing where we're in this constant state of bliss. And then these religious types sort of, that's like the mechanics of it, but then that's like the religion is like the fuel and like the license and the free pass for it, the lube, right? It's all okay. Let's just wash you of your sins. say you like Jesus or whatever, and you're gonna go to heaven after this horrible things we're doing, type of thing, right? It seems like we're going to have a bliss meltdown